Hello, hello. It's your girl Candace,
And I'm Colette.
back again with another episode of Hey Cuz. And today we want to talk about our girl, your girl, Nike sweetheart, Sha'Carri Richardson. And also we want to talk about, the fine line between confidence and arrogance. And is humility required a little bit as a professional athlete? So let's just dive into it. So, last week they had the race in Oregon. I can't remember the name of it. It was post Olympics, which was a little odd to me because I can't recall them hosting this race after the Olympics, but that's neither here nor there. So what happened? Everybody knows what happened. Sha'Carri became ineligible to participate in the Olympics due to her marijuana use. That was very unfortunate because we've heard of other athletes using marijuana. So I don't know. I don't know all the details, but very unfortunate for her. I was rooting for her. I'm half Jamaican, so we know what the vibes are. We know who I'm really rooting for, but I was not. I really want her to be great because she is great. I mean, I can't do what she's doing. She's great. She's a great athlete. She's 5'1". She's pumping. I can't take that away from her. But at the end of the day, was she gonna win the Olympics? No.
I mean, America seems to think so for some reason or whatever, but
and that's why I feel like they had this race to prove
she's good at what she does. I think that if she keeps training, I can definitely see her being a force for the Jamaicans in the next couple of years if she keeps going hard at this. Because she's up and coming, and I think that's pretty cool. But
yeah, that's something that people need to take into consideration as well. She is young. She's a college athlete. This is, I think, her first, go at being a professional athlete. So you got to give her that credit. These other runners, the Jamaicans, they've been running. They've been in the Olympics already. Some of the other Americans, they've been in it. This is their second, third Olympics. So it's kind of not a fair match. But I feel like, what was that?
I don't think it's unfair. Like she worked
it is what it is
to even qualify.
It's professional. It's professional athleticism. It's not always. It's not going to be fair.
But it happens all the time. Happens all the time. Rooting for somebody, and all of a sudden you see an upcoming person you never heard of, just boom, past them. It's all about how you train. If you're great, you're great.
You're only as good as your next race. So
exactly. What I was not expecting was for her to come in last place, even with her run times. I mean,
because one of my friends posted something on Instagram, and he's like, "I can't wait." And I was like, "What are you expecting to see exactly?" And he was like, "The drama." I was like, "Oh, okay," because I was like, "I'm just making sure we're on the same page here." It's like, was I expecting to see Sha'Carri beat? No, I definitely was not expecting to see her come in last. That was
that part was shocking. I mean, there were other countries that I'm not used to seeing have any high rankings in track and field. Granted, for that race, Jamaica took, all 3 spots, which is not unheard of. But there are usually the Americans are right after that, and only one of them was.
It was rough.
Yeah, it was.
It was hard. That was hard to watch. I mean, man, the gap. Because Elaine ran what, a 10-4, 10-5, 10-4?
One of those 10-4.
Was it 10.54 or
something like that? She beat it. It was a new record for her.
Yeah, new record for her. So I mean, and then Sha'Carri's pre-Olympic trial record
was 10.86, and
so that's nowhere close anyway. So it's like
11.14. So she didn't even do her own normal running time.
It's like they were acting like she was robbed. She was robbed of the experience of being in the Olympics. She was not robbed of a medal.
Right.
I think there's a difference.
Right.
And I get that. And I want to make that clear. She was not robbed of a medal because I mean, we can't predict the future, but it was very unlikely.
With her run time, she was coming first place. No, I expect her.
Like they were really making it seem like she was about to do something, like she was about to beat these Jamaicans, and it was not about to happen. The yams and callaloo and the dumplings.
I'm done.
It's just.
I'm done.
It's just they don't miss no meals. They don't miss no practice. Like, this is what we do. We run.
That track and field, that sprinting, Jamaica's been
It's the
dominating.
same thing with the long distance. You're gonna see it in one of them African countries in first place.
Kenya,
If we ain't
Ethiopia.
gonna do nothing, I don't know if it's a trauma response. If we not gonna do nothing else, Lord forgive me. We gonna run. So it's just like, come on, guys.
And I'm
It's
still
like,
used to seeing them go neck and neck. Like you saw all the time with the guys. It was always Bolt and Gatlin. Like you already knew. And you still know how that race was gonna come out, but you always was like, okay, well, how far apart?
Close enough. Like you might hold your breath a little.
Yeah.
But them girls were there. The girls, the Jamaican women did not come to play this year. Period.
Especially in the rain.
They did not come to play. But I mean, like I said, I'm not taking nothing away from her. Very talented. Again, she's what, 5'1"? Elaine Thompson is 5'6" or 5'7".
Mm-hmm.
That already gives you an advantage right there. Just being taller.
It does.
But
you have a longer stride and stuff. But
yeah.
You can still be fast and shorter. I mean,
absolutely. Shelly Ann, new nickname.
Johan Blake.
You know how they have Petty Wop and Petty LaBelle? I'm now calling Petty Ann Fraser Price.
Why is she petty? Okay, let's talk about that.
See the meme?
Let me see Shelly Ann. Why is she petty?
You didn't see the meme they made of her when they were interviewing
They made
Sha'Carri,
the meme, but I didn't see what she did. Why they called her petty?
I don't think she
was walked by. It was just smile on her face.
It was just a perfectly captured moment where it just looks like she's laughing at her. I don't think she is. But it was just perfectly. I don't. But that's the point of a meme. It's you take what it is and interpret it into something else. So my new nickname is going to be Petty Ann Fraser Price because I love it. But yeah, she's 5 foot. So height doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
You got to put in the work.
For a while.
Yeah, she's
female wise. She was number 1 for a while.
I'm telling you, the yams. It's the yams.
I can't.
I'm not even like I mean that with everything in my soul. But yeah. So it's just putting in the work. And I don't know what Sha'Carri been up to since the Olympic trials.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't know if she was training during that month.
She had this time. This is the time she should have been putting in that work.
It should have been. But you know, we also know that she had a whole grief story and stuff like that.
It's a lot. It's a lot to
handle during the race. There's a lot of factors, but all I'm saying is get back on the horse, keep training, and I do hope I see her in the next Olympics. But
because you could make the point that a star athlete should be able to just block it out as part of their training. Game time. It's game time. It's just like when I go to work, I had a professor back in nursing school. She said, check it at the door. Whatever happened at home, if you decide to come up to work, it doesn't matter. As selfish or cynical or whatever as it sounds, mean as it sounds, it's the truth. If I'm coming in, this people's lives at stake. It's not just a trophy. It's people's lives. If I'm coming in, I'm not in the right mental space, something bad can happen. So I feel like the same applies to the athletes. Like that's why Simone Biles backed out because she's like, my mind's not right.
If it's that's the case, that she could have stepped out. But then you already know what this country would have done for being real about that.
But is her ego too big to do that?
It's not just ego. It would have been a whole thing. Oh, she's
scared. She got a big ego.
You know,
it's
a double-edged sword for her. It is. It really is.
It is.
Had she backed out and said, you know what, I'm dealing with my mother's grief or whatever it is that she's dealing with, this whole country would have been in uproar.
The world is watching. The world is watching Sha'Carri. And the thing is, they weren't watching her because of her talent necessarily completely. They were watching her because of her personality. She reminded us of FloJo with the hair and the nails. She was glamorous. She's arrogant. That's what we like to see here in the US of A. We like a little drama. We do. We do. We love it. We live. Why do you think they interview her first after this race? Who interviews the person who comes in last place first?
America always.
No one.
People.
Come on. Come on. And I honestly, I hate it for her. In the back of my mind, for some, like, is this race is giving me setup vibes. Like, it didn't make sense to me. Like, Nike sponsoring it. That's Nike. She's one of their athletes. Sha'Carri's one of their athletes. So it's like, I feel like, why would you set her up to fail like that? Something. And then also, it's just like, my concern is who on her team is there to say, Sha'Carri, be more humble. Sha'Carri, guard your mind. Because I really feel like I'm nervous for her. Because, like, I feel like 2 weeks time she could really have a nervous breakdown. Like, this is a lot. She's young. That's what people forget. She's young. That's a lot.
But I don't think she has anybody in her corner, like you said.
That's the problem.
Professional.
That's the problem.
Like, she has all these coaches to go, okay, this is how you do this is how you do that. She lost her mom. Maybe that was part of her.
Because even with the marijuana thing, like, somebody should have been in her corner saying, like, how did she get that? When you're working on something professional, you are cooped up in a hotel, you're eating, they're watching you every move. You eat, you practice, you go back to bed. That's it. So it's just like,
she was cooped up in a hotel?
That's usually how it goes. But clearly, I don't know. I just feel like she needs better people in her camp. She needs some people to make sure her mind is right, because it's a lot of pressure to be under for such a young person.
It is,
especially for this spicy individual. It's okay. She got that ego. She got that confidence. It's cool, but
confidence is one thing.
I think she crosses the line. It's a very fine line.
Yes, because that speech after that interview was a whole nother level.
That's the thing.
I've never heard any athlete come on.
I just feel like they're fueling it. I feel like she's the sacrificial lamb a little bit. Like, they don't care what happens.
And at some point, she also just has to take responsibility, be accountable for things.
She is an adult.
She is an adult. True. At the end of the day, she's watched other professionals come on and.
But I mean, think about when we were 21. Everybody knows the stereotype about 21-year-olds in America.
It don't matter. You're in it, like you said, a professional setting. When you were a nurse, you were in your 20s.
I was.
All right, then you didn't act like that.
I did start nursing at 21 exactly. So
exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm trying to get something.
I'm not giving.
But no, I don't get clout for being a nurse. I would be. I mean,
that's even better. That's my point. Even more.
I'm a bad nurse. But it would be even worse if I was a track star. So. I can't be bad at her. Lord knows why.
You gotta do both. You gotta be professional.
Lord knows why I wasn't an athlete. He knows. I probably would be just like her. But there needs to be someone in her camp to say, hey, cool it down. Sit down. Be humble. Like something.
Well, she gonna learn.
Because I am not, and never have I ever, nor will I question her talent. That's not the point of any of the conversations I've ever had about her. Can't deny she's talented. I can't run for nothing. So I can't sit here. I'm not going to be one of those keyboard thugs. I'm not going to sit here and say she's not talented. Never. My concern is more about her mental well-being. And we've been seeing that in this something was in the water at Tokyo. Because it seemed like those athletes were going through. So many people were backing out. So many people were like, I'm not participating. It was
a lot they're coming out of. I mean, yes, COVID is still a thing, but you got people coming out of 2020. Who knows what mental state they were in during that time? And then boom, Olympics the next year. So knowing that
these athletes aren't
this year, they had people need train during that whole ordeal.
Absolutely.
That's a lot itself.
And a lot of people around the world, we're so privileged in the US to forget how easy it is. But they were building gyms in their fields and all types of things because they don't have access like we have access.
Right.
And they still show up. These athletes are not getting paid. That's one thing people forget. These athletes are not being paid. It's about the glory. So it's like they're going through all this stuff. We're in world pandemic, there's wars. Countries are coming out of wars to come to the Olympics. There were athletes who were refusing to participate in their event because either they weren't so in support of the war, or they're like, oh, our countries are at war.
Right.
And I'm not touching this person. And even if it's a boxing match, you think they would want to box the person, but they're like, no, I'm not boxing this person. Like, athlete after athlete was just like, no, whether it's my mental health or the state of unrest in my country, they were just like, no. And I love that. I love that the athletes are taking a stand. And people often say that athletes should not be political. I think that's nonsense. If you have a platform, a real platform,
use it.
Not the social media platform, a real platform, that's the time, that's the person that should take the stand on things. Because the world is watching, especially at the Olympics. The world is literally watching us. And I applaud those athletes taking stands, even though the athletes, like I think it was handball players or volleyball players, gymnasts, they were like, I'm not wearing these skimpy outfits.
Yeah, that was a big thing.
And I agree, because like, for what?
For what? For what?
The men they're fully clothed, why do they need to be naked? It just shows you the patriarchal society that we live in. It's crazy. It's disgusting. It's perverted. Shame on you, Olympic Committee.
Yeah.
Shame on you.
And I like how they all had each other's backs. Like, even when Simone Biles did, like, step aside during the Olympics, like, other Olympian athletes weren't like, yeah, she should have continued. They were like, no, like, good for her. We're a supporter of her. We're human too.
And then not to be shady, but it gives other athletes the opportunity to get a gold.
Do the same. Yep.
Not to be shady.
To get
and she even
to be seen. And I think that's good. Like, Team America.
Team America participated. If she was at her, but she's racking up the goals. Those other American athletes did not have a chance to get the gold. And she applauded them when they did. She wasn't like, oh, you only got it because I didn't participate. No, she supported her teams.
And they came in second place. Like, that's amazing. Without her.
That's what I'm saying. It's these keyboard thugs. Like, what are you doing with your life that you want to hate on? This girl has been doing this all her life. She's been winning. Her life is literally winning. It is her job to win. You can't say that. What are you successful at? That successful at? What are you that good at? That's something for another show. What are you that good at?
She's human at the end of the day. All these athletes are. I think people forget that. I think the nations forget that. It's like, nope, you're representing my country. I want you to win, because if you win, I win. But at the end of the day, it's like, they're not, they don't know you. Like, this is for them and their name.
Yeah, you obviously didn't care enough about your country to train all your life and go to the Olympics. Stop. Like, chill. You don't even train well enough to do your job. If we're being honest. We know a lot of people who don't do their job well, and they don't try. So shut up talking about these athletes. Please. Please.
Yeah, I'm proud of them. I mean, I got to learn a lot of different names this year, just because the people that normally win weren't winning. A lot of people were off the game for whatever reason, which I'm not getting on them. I'm just saying there were a lot of changes. People that were winning gold and things, and I was like, what?
It's weird. And it's hard to perform when you don't have an audience. It's awkward.
Yeah.
Like, even with the whole pandemic, as an artist, we've been performing from our living rooms. It's weird. So I understand that they might be feeling off their game. It's very understandable. It's quiet. That's not what you're used to, people cheering you on. You're used to the noise, even though you feel like you might perform better in the silence. But that's what you're used to, is the encouragement, it's the people having your back, the people applauding you. Yeah, it's weird. I totally get it. They were under a lot of pressure for many reasons. Training during pandemic, not being able to have their friends and family support them in the foreign country. A lot of these people, it's their first time even getting on a plane or going, like, traveling abroad. It's a lot.
And they had to be, isolated just for safety reasons when they first got there.
Yeah. And then some athletes got knocked out because they tested positive.
Yeah.
Could you imagine training your whole life and then just to have to be sent home? Like, God, that's sad. It's sad. So, yeah, the moral of the story, I guess, is like, what's the balance between confidence versus arrogance and the humility? Also, I think there's a point that I did forget to mention. The marijuana, it's not physically they're like, it's not performance. A lot of people are like, it's not performance enhancing. Not physically. I can't see any way how it would be physically enhancing your performance, but mentally. It helps you block all that stuff out. And we could stand to say that showed in this performance. So can she really handle the pressure? Like, it's a vast difference. Vast difference. And you could see that in the beginning of the race, she was psyching herself out. She was big time.
It's a lot of pressure because it was like all eyes on her.
And then you put her in the middle of two Jamaicans. It's like, I feel like it was a setup. It was just,
I don't get your
like
setup analogy.
It just seemed like a setup. I don't know. But either way, I think that she needs to get her mind right.
Of course.
Because if this is her performance where she is completely lucid, completely aware of her surroundings, who's to the left, who's to the right, she broke under the pressure. As would I. Can't lie. I feel like I'm just being completely honest. If I was in her position, I would be breaking it too. Like, I missed the Olympics. I trained or didn't train. If I did train, it might not have been as hard as I should have been. I'm still dealing with the issue, the mental, the death of my mom and the after effects of the scandal. It's a lot. And then you're gonna put me smack dab in the middle of my toughest competitors? Come on. That's a lot. It's a lot to take in.
It's a lot. And she has, 3 years? I think they said they're going to get in 3 years versus 4 for the next Olympics. So she has time to get it together, get counseling.
Yeah, because I think they're going to go back to the even year schedule.
Yeah. So she has
still time. There's still time.
I hope she keeps going. I really do. I hope
that's the thing that I'm most concerned about is really her mental health. I just want her to be okay. More than anything. That's more important than being a star athlete. And you can't be a star athlete if you're not okay. They go hand in hand. So I just hope that she gets a good team. She needs a PR person to help handle that chat. And she needs somebody to make sure that she's staying humble, staying on the right track, make sure her mind is right. Yeah. I think any athlete needs that. It doesn't matter what level, because
Simone Biles had the same thing. She was coming back this was her first Olympic trial since that whole scandal with the gymnast and the inappropriate touching. Then they kept on getting on her because of all the extra tricks that she was doing.
But imagine she was still winning those Olympics, dealing with that
trauma.
Getting medals. Dealing with that trauma, she was still a star athlete. Like, it's crazy. But we see it with student athletes all the time. There's tons of research that a lot of student athletes go into a state of depression, especially college athletes when they graduate. A large percent of them go into depression because their whole life revolves around being an athlete. But how many people become professional athletes? Nobody prepares them for that day when they have to turn their tassel and graduate. Even people who aren't athletes, even just regular people, like for me, it's like graduating, it's disorienting because you're used to having to wake up, go to class, you have homework, and once they just rip your routine from you and thrust you into the professional world. And then even before you get your job, because for us, we have to take our boards and things, so we can't go to work immediately. I'm waking up every day like I feel like I have something to do, somewhere to be. It's very disorienting, and this is not something that I've been training for my whole life per se. So I think there just needs to be more support for athletes in general. Just like there's a guidance counselor for students, there should be a guidance counselor just for the athletes. A counselor, a mental health counselor just for the athletes. So much pressure. And I feel like a lot of them are not adequately prepared for the day that you have to face that, hey, I'm not going to the NFL. How many high school teams are there in America and how many NFL teams are there? There's no way. The numbers just don't, everybody's not going to make it. And I was watching those Netflix series. I can't remember what they're called. Last Chance U, I think it's called. And,
I haven't started.
Yeah, they have it for basketball and football. And it just shows the kids who, you know, they didn't make it to those top tier colleges. So they have to go to junior college first, get their grades up, and then maybe transfer. Because for some of them were in those schools and they failed out or got into trouble or something. So it's just like the support is just not there for athletes, even at the college level, which is a lot of scandal on that level anyway, because they should be getting paid. But because like this is a prime of their life. A lot of star athletes get injured in college and then they won't make it professional.
Right.
People who have the opportunity, who probably would have made it professional, they can't. Mm-hmm. Could you imagine like the pressure your whole family, and they really do feel like they're carrying their whole family on their shoulders just to get injured for what? And they're like, oh, they get paid in a degree. They don't get to really learn because everything they do is revolves around being an athlete. Mm-hmm. Like realistically, that's a job. It's free labor. Just like when we do clinicals, that's free labor, man. It is. Period. University is free labor.
Unless you're working, just shadowing and watching. Once you start putting
my senior year, we're doing full patient loads.
Yeah.
Come on, like that ain't right. But that's another story. But with these athletes, yeah, I just feel like there's just little support. And especially with the men, because we already know that toxic thought that they're not supposed to feel things anyway. Right. But yeah, I think there just needs to be more support for the athletes. They get the physical support, they get everything given to them so they can support themselves to be great physically. But they forget that mental is very important. It's hard to perform when your mind's not right.
Yeah, and I hope she does get the help she needs, whether it's from, a committee or a nearby coach. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's also just resources out there for every person that can be fairly inexpensive as well. Average Joe uses it all the time.
It all goes back to that mental health. I said that today.
Right, I'm just saying,
everybody should get a therapist.
Need the support, but also recognizing that you need it and seeking it out for yourself. Mm-hmm. And not being ashamed.
But yeah, go Sha'Carri. We're rooting for you.
See you in the next Olympics, girl. Bye, guys.
Run fast, Sha'Carri. Run fast. Bye, guys.